Welcome to Caffeine, Chaos, and Critters. My name is Justin, and I'm drinking a matcha today.
My name is Kaitlin. I'm also drinking a matcha for my caffeine today, which we made together on FaceTime.
We sure did. Always on FaceTime. Less so now that you're in vet school, but
Yeah, a little less, but that's okay.
it's
We
just
still
busy
try.
now, you know?
Yeah, true facts. Well, today's episode, we are talking about a few things that just make me angry. And then we're also going to be talking about just Thanksgiving coming up and things to watch out for with your pets. So instead of a listener story, because once again, we don't have one, we'll be talking about that. And then we'll, of course, end with our chaos corner as always. So, yeah. Oh my God, we got all the animals in here today.
I know. Luna's paying me a visit.
Making an appearance. I miss Luna. She's so
She
cute.
misses you.
Yeah. Wish I could come visit.
Soon. We'll make it happen.
So I guess we can start off with Thanksgiving. Obviously, that's big holiday, usually lots of people involved, family members involved, usually lots of pets in one household at a time. So there can be a lot of chaos for
And
the animals
critters.
around Thanksgiving. Yeah. So we were just going to give a list for pet owners of things that are toxic. So please do not give this to your pet during Thanksgiving. And then we're also going to give a list of things that are okay for them to have, because we all know you're going to feed your animals something on Thanksgiving. Everybody does it, including myself. So we'll just give a list of things that are okay to eat as well. So I can start with the toxic things. Maybe you can finish with the are okay things if you have your list up.
Yeah.
So what foods are toxic for dogs that are typically eaten around Thanksgiving time? Obviously, grapes and raisins are one. I feel like that's not a super common Thanksgiving food, but if you're a person who has like fruit trays out and stuff while you're cooking, just please make sure that the kids are not giving the dogs grapes or raisins while you're making your feast during the day. Garlic, onions, leeks are technically all toxic for dogs. I think all three of those require like a large amount to be consumed to actually have signs. But just for safety, don't give that to them. Chocolate, obviously, people are going to be baking. Your cocoa powders, chocolate, not good for the dogs. And also, for those of you who are making homemade bread on Thanksgiving, do not let your dog get the bread that is rising on the counter. That raw dough that's just full of yeast. Do not give that to them or let them have
Makes
it.
them
Or if they
drunk
do
as
get
fuck.
into it, you need to go to the ER. Cooked bones are another one. A lot of people like to give like turkey bones and everything after they've cooked the turkey. Cooked bones like that, especially chicken and turkey bones, are really brittle and they splinter when they bite into them. And so they can get in the gums, they can get stuck in the throat, and they can just cause all kinds of issues. So just don't give those little like brittle cooked bones to your dogs. Another one that I have seen personally on ER is dogs getting into alcohol. So everybody's drinking, they're putting their glasses all over the place. Maybe you got that Kahlua with milk in it, and the dog thinks that's delish, and it comes over to that glass that's sitting on the end table and just drinks the whole thing. Dogs don't tolerate alcohol super well, and they can have all kinds of issues secondary to that. And I've seen a few of them have to be hospitalized. So please don't give your dogs alcohol, or just make sure it's up high enough that they can't get into it. And then lastly, if you're cooking ham instead of turkey, also do not give that to the dogs. Super fatty, and it usually ends in diarrhea and or pancreatitis if you give them enough of it. So no ham, no pork for our little doggy friends. I don't know if you want to talk about what's good to give. What's
Yeah.
okay, what's safe.
So, as far as things that are okay to give to your little furry friends, which ideally is going to be your dogs. Nobody really feeds their cats things, but so any of like your steamed vegetables, like if you have a veggie tray that has like broccoli or cauliflower or carrots, like things like that are okay to give your dog. Um, if you have some leftover pumpkin, like pureed pumpkin from making a pumpkin pie, you can give your dog pureed pumpkin. I wouldn't give him pie filling, obviously, but just
No.
like the plain pumpkin. Um, if you have like a piece of turkey that doesn't have any skin on it or no bones in it, you can give like a little piece of turkey. If it's deep fried, probably don't do that. But if you bake it, you can give them some turkey. Sweet potatoes are something you can give your dog. And I'm talking an unseasoned sweet potato. Like, don't give your dog a bowl of yams that you've candied with marshmallows. And plain mashed potatoes are fine. Plain cranberries, apple slices.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
Yeah, so they can have
So
a little plate too if you want to make them a little plate, but it's got to
yeah,
be stuff that's not going to make them sick. That way we
yeah,
don't see you the
fruits and
week after.
veggies and plain turkey, some boring sweet potatoes. I know we all think that seems really boring, but your dog will love it. I promise you, your dog will not notice that the
Oh,
yam
for
you give
sure.
him is not candied.
A good old sweet potato. Mm-mm-mm. I can
Your
eat
dog
plain
that
sweet
gets
potatoes all day.
kibble for every meal is gonna love it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. Well, that's just a little bit for the pet parents that potentially watch this or listen in. Um, just so you have some tips, some good tips for the holidays. This applies to Christmas as well, so same
It
rules.
does. Same rules do apply.
Yeah.
I was actually just
Um,
thinking we should probably look at our schedule because our next episode would technically be coming out the Monday before Thanksgiving. So
yeah.
I think we should still be able to have an episode by then.
Yeah, for sure.
But just for all of our like listeners who listen every other week and like listen regularly, just be prepared that it is a holiday time of year, and so um, as we're kind of planning our episodes, the end of this month and the end of December might be a little choppy on like our release dates just because of holiday stuff. So just bear with us, but we'll try to keep you as up to date as we can on our
Yeah.
release dates.
Yeah. I think honestly the schedule that we're on right now with episodes I think it will work out so that it won't interfere, but you never know.
Yeah. Give us a little grace over the holiday season.
Yeah. Well, that being said, I'm just gonna like briefly touch on the topics we are gonna talk about today. One of them, there is a veterinary influencer on Instagram and TikTok, that posted a story about this podcast, that the New York Times released. It's an opinion podcast, that talked about the feminization of the workplace, essentially. So women in the workplace and the fact that there's more women in the workplace. And they even had like a little snippet about veterinary medicine within this podcast. And so we just wanted to talk about it because it is something that I think should be addressed. Um, just because the veterinary field in general gets a lot of flack for one thing or the other. And the last thing I want to do is add another thing to that list. So we're going to talk about that. We are also going to talk about veterinary medicine leadership not getting appropriate training. We'll go into that more. And then also corporate takeover, because this opinion article / podcast did talk about the corporate takeover of veterinary medicine and what contributes to that. So we're going to talk about what we actually think contributed to corporate takeover and whether or not it's like a bad thing. So those are kind of the main things today. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to that, but
No, just talking about my segment is kind of about leadership within the veterinary profession and their lack of leadership training. And so I was gonna kind of segue that into a program that I found that's becoming a little bit more prevalent in the veterinary field, I think.
okay.
So we'll talk about that.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, let's just jump right into this article. I have it pulled up. It's not an article, it's a podcast, but I read the transcript, or I have read the transcript. It's called "Did Liberal Feminism Ruin the Workplace?" And like I said, it is on the New York Times if you guys want to look into it yourself. It has 2 women authors who have written books about the feminization of America and the workplace, blah, blah, blah. They seem to kind of have differing opinions. They do argue a lot throughout the podcast, these 2 women. And then there's a guy there who just seems to kind of be the mediator between them. But the main woman who talks about the little piece that they talk about on veterinary medicine, her name is Helen Andrews. And she wrote a piece called The Great Feminization. And it's on Compact Magazine, I think, if you want to read her thing. I personally do not after watching her on this podcast, but that's just me. But just so you know who it was that was saying these things and had this information. I wrote down one of the quotes that she talked about in regards to veterinary medicine directly. And it basically says, wokeness is feminine and feminized due to more women working. And then she goes on to say that within veterinary medicine, the reason that there has been a corporate takeover is that more than 80% of people who work in veterinary medicine are women. And she said, and I quote, "Female veterinarians prefer not to own businesses because it involves more financial risk, longer hours," and essentially said that it has led to the corporatization of veterinary medicine and could potentially result in problems for pets and animals. So she essentially is saying that because there's more women in the field, less people are owning their own small practices within veterinary medicine, because apparently women in general don't like to work long hours, and we think that financial risk or owning a business is not something that we want to do as women. So we can just start there. I have many quotes that I wrote down from this woman. But I guess I just want to hear your thoughts on it.
Well, I think that's a bunch of bull crikey, to be quite honest with you.
I agree.
I feel like there are a lot of factors that have influenced veterinary medicine to be more corporate led at this point, but I don't think it's because of this like female takeover of veterinary medicine, as we call it. Because those of you who don't know, like, there was a time when veterinary medicine was primarily males, and it has kind of like that coin has flipped, and now it is primarily female heavy. But I think the same thing kind of goes for human medicine in general. Like, honestly, medicine as a whole has gone from primarily male to a primarily female workforce. I honestly think it's a positive thing, personally, because
I agree.
if we're going to talk about feminism and what makes somebody more feminine, typically feminine individuals are more caregiving, and just like you guys have that like motherly instinct on like caring for people and caring for things and just like putting your heart and soul into the things that you're doing. And I'm a select few males who's also that way. Um, but females just like care more, and so I do think it makes more of a positive impact than a negative impact, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um,
And I
because you
mean,
guys just
this woman went on to say, because the other woman that was in this podcast that was talking to Helen Andrews, she essentially said, "Do you think that it has been a bad thing? Like, do you think that it's resulting in deaths? Do you think it's resulting in, issues with the medicine?" And she couldn't answer it directly. She just said that she doesn't think it's catastrophic in veterinary medicine, but went on to say that she feels it's catastrophic in other fields to have a woman take over. So saying that our empathy and our like natural virtues, I guess you could say, um, are okay in veterinary medicine, but not elsewhere is kind of what she was saying. Um, and so I think she thinks that the reason the business part or the business aspect isn't doing well is because of women, but she's saying the medicine aspect of it is okay at this point.
I don't agree with that. I
Yeah.
I personally
Yeah.
think that the main reasons that we have become more corporate led is one, have you seen the economy? I'm sorry, but at this point in this world, the price for veterinary students to get their degree compared to what it was 10, 15 years ago is probably almost doubled.
Oh, for sure. I think, and I really think the cost of education is a huge factor in this. If the cost of education wasn't so high, I think we would have more veterinarians owning businesses. Period. End of story. But
Mm-hmm.
because we come out of school in $300,000 of debt, majority of students nowadays come out with that much debt, if not more,
A lot
depending
of
on
them
what
come out
school.
with 500K is like pretty
Right.
average.
How can you have that amount and then say, oh, hey, bank, you want to give me $1 million also to start a business that may or may not work? No. Like, we've already put ourselves into a zone of financial risk um, just graduating school. So I think saying that we aren't willing to take the financial risk or we aren't willing to work long hours or we aren't willing to put in the work because we are women is not true. The problem is that the cost of owning a practice on top of our cost of school is astronomical. I
Mm-hmm.
applaud those who do own a business, a small privately owned practice in today's world, because I know that they are just making ends meet. They are making ends meet with what they are doing. Um, and trying to pay their people well too. I mean, that's hard. And I mean, if you look at the practices who are still privately owned that have been around for 30, 40 years, right? I've worked at one of those practices. Oftentimes they are owned by a male, but that is because back then it was a male dominated field and there were more men becoming veterinarians. So it makes sense that
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them were business owners. It was also easier to get business loans back then. It was cheaper and they were coming out of school with far less debt. So it wasn't as much of a financial risk as it is today. Um, but if you look at them, a lot of them are paying their technicians, no offense, like shit. Not every single clinic, but a lot of these really small mom and pop ones are paying technicians who have a license literally $12 an hour. That's not livable in today's world. They're also using very minimal equipment. They don't upgrade equipment, and oftentimes have outdated like modes of like care. So, is it good for the client who's going to go in and pay less money than they would if they went to a corporate practice? Yes. Does that also mean that they're getting the highest standard of care and that the people that work there are actually getting taken care of? No, not always. And again, I'm not saying that it's like that for every single case or every single privately owned clinic, because it's not. There are some that are privately owned that are ran beautifully and everyone's paid well and they have top-notch equipment and everything goes exactly as it should, but not all of them are like that. And the thing with corporate companies is that they have this overhead, right? Where if something goes wrong, if they need to replace, an X-ray machine, which is really expensive, they can do those things easily without it impacting their medicine. A small private practice cannot do that. So I don't know. There's pros and cons, but I definitely don't think the reason that we have a corporate takeover of veterinary medicine has anything to do with the fact that it's female dominated. I think that's just correlation, not causation in that case.
Yes.
There's
And
way more factors involved.
not only is it like an economic influence, because like you said, like most veterinarians that are graduating right now are pretty much scraping by at this point. Like most people that I've spoken to who have graduated vet school, their monthly payment for their loans is more than their mortgage on
Yeah,
their
I
house.
expect mine. I expect my monthly payments after graduation to be between $3,000 and $4,000 a month. Yeah,
Yeah. How are you supposed to open up a business when that's how much debt you're in?
that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it would be amazing to run my own practice. I think there's a lot of veterinarians out there that think it would be amazing to do that. We all wish that we could have things go exactly as we want and we could help our communities and we could lower the cost of vet care. We all wish that we could do that. The problem is that in order to become a veterinarian or to even enter this profession, you're dropping, in some cases, literally $500,000 just to get the degree. And then, I've heard this from family members where they've asked me, why are you even doing it then? Why would you put yourself in that much debt? Why would you do that? Well, if I don't, and people who are passionate about it don't because of the cost, who's going to do it? At some point, you run out of veterinarians and pet ownership goes up every year. So it's like somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to bite the bullet. And unfortunately, that also means that pet owners are paying more out of pocket. But I really think the cost of education is a huge factor in why there's more corporate takeover in veterinary medicine because we can't afford to do all of it. Unfortunately, we just can't afford to do all of it. So,
Well, and if anybody knows anybody who sold out their general practice to a corporation, they offer an amount of money that I do not think anybody could pass up. These huge corporations are targeting these small businesses, and I won't say targeting, maybe that's a bad word.
it's
But
probably correct.
they're going towards these small business owners, and they're offering to buy their practice, the staff that they have in there, all of the equipment they've gotten, and I'm sure they offer millions of dollars to buy these
They do.
practices.
They
And
definitely
I'm
do.
sorry, but as a small business owner and somebody's handing me a $2 million check and I no longer have to own a business,
Yeah.
I think I would do it. Like,
Yeah.
who wouldn't at that point?
That's
That's a
totally fair.
life-changing amount of money.
Yeah. And the crazy part too is these corporations are buying these businesses that already work well, right? They already have a client base. They've already done advertising. They have all the same staff on there, same doctors most of the time. And so the clients don't even really feel a difference other than prices going up, right?
Mhm.
When these corporate companies take over, half the time they don't change the name of the business either. And so people don't even realize that it's been bought out by a corporate entity. The name stays the same, all the same. So they're not just buying the physical building with all the equipment, they are buying all of the clients and the business that already exists too, coming
Mhm.
in and having to do almost no work. So for them, it's totally worth it to offer millions because they have the money, they can easily do it. And then within 5-10 years, I mean, they're sitting pretty with the money that they've made off of that business.
Yep.
So
And sometimes the person that they buy this business from, they will also offer them a corporate job.
yeah, yeah. Or a
Like
stake
for
in the
example,
business.
yeah, they will offer them something as well on top of the $1 million
Yeah.
or whatever amount that they're
Which I
offering to
mean,
buy your practice.
if you are a 50, 60-year-old veterinarian who's been working your ass off for 20 plus years, built up this business, and you want to retire, most of the time they cannot easily retire from those businesses without selling, right? And if a corporate
Mm-hmm.
company comes along and they say, "I'll buy this for millions of dollars, I'll give you a stake in the company, and you can retire pretty, and you don't have to work another day in your life," who
Who
wouldn't
wouldn't
take
say
that?
yes to that? Yeah.
Who wouldn't take that? They can pay off their debt finally. They can buy a house, pay off their house, whatever. Get rid of the
Retire.
business and don't even have to worry about it. Of course, people are going to do that. Like, that's very enticing. So, again, I think that has nothing to do with women in the workforce. Um, Such a sexist idea that because there's more women, we've somehow failed the business. I just don't think that those two things are related at all. Um,
And can I just talk about my workplace at this, like that I'm at currently? Because we went through a very similar thing. I work for an ER specialty clinic in the state that I live in. It was at one point a privately owned ER and specialty practice. It was opened by two specialists who, maybe two or three of them, who opened the specialty hospital together. They purchased the building, they got it up and running, and it was a very successful ER specialty facility in the state. Eventually, a corporation offered them a lot of money for this business, which they obviously took because they were both getting older. They wanted to retire. They just didn't really want to run a business anymore. The owners sold out just the business. They didn't sell them the building. So they sold them the name and they sold them the equipment and the staff, but they still owned the building. They got a very pretty penny for this business, especially being an ER specialty facility.
Did they then rent the building to them as well?
Yes,
To
they
use?
now. Yes, so the owner
So they're
of
still
that
making money.
Yes, so they are still making money to this day because they still own the building and they rent the building out to this corporation.
Wow.
Talk about a business move. I'm like, oh, you're so smart. I think the surgeon is probably in his 60s. So they were also, went to vet school around the time when it was primarily male owned, or a large, significant amount of men were in the field.
See, that's the other thing. If we're going to blame women for the corporate takeover, let's not forget who owned these small businesses that sold out to corporations. If that's an issue, then all of these men who owned veterinary practices once upon a time, they are the ones who sold out to the corporate companies. So, how is that? Anyway,
How's that your problem now?
I digress. This woman also just said some crazy stuff. This is not even VetMed related, but I'm going to say it on this podcast because it just irked me so bad. She basically said that the Me Too movement was not a valid movement and that it just changed what people considered sexual assault to things that were not actually sexual assault. Saying that men who are just socially awkward are now getting persecuted because women can just say whatever they want was sexual assault. So that's the same woman, by the way, who said all this stuff. Helen Andrews, in case you want to look her up. Insane. But we can move on to just talking then about the corporate takeover. Do you feel like veterinary medicine as a whole being corporate negatively affects the medicine?
I honestly think it positively affects the medicine personally.
Me too.
The only reason I say this, not that I'm bashing on these small privately owned practices, because me and you both have worked for a very successful privately owned emergency facility.
That is true. Yep.
That we practiced very good medicine at.
Yeah, for sure. They exist for sure. They definitely do.
Yes, but it is pretty common for these privately owned facilities to practice subpar medicine, to be quite honest with you. And so when you have corporate funding backing up your practice, you're able to afford nicer equipment and you're able to provide what we call gold standard care. And so I also think that corporations can afford to pay their team better than a privately owned facility could. I think there's definitely negative things that come with corporate takeover, I will admit.
Of course.
We can come off as money hungry. And prices are increased to compensate for the ability to pay your staff well and the ability to have gold standard care. But unfortunately, you get what you pay for. So typically, if you are at a practice that is offering you all of this X, Y, and Z diagnostics, I'm sorry, but a full workup is going to cost you anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 to do a full workup on your dog. And I am just talking about an exam, X-rays, blood work, etc. I'm not even talking about high standard of care workups like CT, MRI, things like that, there's going to be more. Even ultrasound is going to be more. But a standard workup is going to cost you anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500. And I think that's just the standard of pricing at this point in time and like at this point in
Yeah.
our economy.
Yeah.
But that means you're paying that price because I have to survive. I, as a veterinary worker, have to be able to pay my rent. I have to be able to put food in my belly. I have to be able to pay for my electric bill. I have pets of my own that I have to care for.
Yeah.
Like
Some people have
it
kids.
exactly. Some people have kids.
Some people have $3,000 to $4,000 a month student loan payments. Somebody's got to pay for that. Yeah.
It's just how the world works. I don't know how else to put it.
I know.
But
I know.
it's just
I
really
do agree, though,
frustrating.
that the standard of care kind of goes up with some of these corporate things. And I was even talking to my boyfriend about this, and he brought up kind of very similar points. And he was also saying that corporate companies have strict guidelines for everything, whether you work in fast food, you work at a bookstore, you work in a grocery store, or you work in a corporately owned veterinary practice. They have guidelines and standards for everything. So everything is getting done the correct way and the same way across the board, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
thing about having those standards and those guidelines is that it does result most of the time in fewer mistakes, so fewer medical mistakes in our case. And also, I think it also attracts more qualified people because they can pay better
Yes.
and they have better benefits and they have all these things. And so a lot of these companies can attract a radiologist or another specialist who they can pay well because they deserve it. That's, I don't know, 10, 11 years for some of those specialists of education to get where they are. So they deserve to be paid well. So, of course, they're going to go to the corporate company who offers them the best package, the most money, and the best schedule, right? So that's what these corporate companies can offer. And you're not going to find a specialist at a teeny tiny little practice. You're just not going to unless they've been around for 10, 15 years already and are very successful, which we did see with a corporately owned practice. So it can happen, or not corporately, privately owned. It can happen with these privately owned practices, but I do think it takes a long time to get there. I mean, they don't open with a surgeon and a radiologist and a criticalist and all. I mean, they don't open that way. They open with one doctor who owns the practice and two technicians who do everything, and they work their way up if they do become a very successful privately owned business. So I think that's it too. Like, especially with the rising cost of education, if the cost of education continues to rise, the price of veterinary care continues to rise. So
Mm-hmm.
my suggestion to owners who are complaining about the prices of veterinary medicine, y'all need to start going after these colleges, and we all need to push for um, regulation on how much they can charge for tuition, because that's step one to lowering veterinary prices over time, in my opinion,
Yes.
or at least halting them so that they don't continue to go up at an astronomical rate. Step one is definitely lowering the cost of education, for sure.
A veterinarian is in as much debt as a human doctor with a fraction of the yearly wage.
Yeah, and you know what's so funny to me about that is that I feel like people expect human doctors to drive around in their Mercedes, their BMWs, have these big, giant houses that they own, go on lavish vacations. I feel like it's just normal in society for human doctors to live that lifestyle and to have that life. But God forbid a veterinarian shows up in a BMW. Then we're money hungry. We don't care about animals. Why are we there? You shouldn't work in this field, blah, 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 blah. The double standard is so insane. At the end of the day, still doctors and still went through a lot of bullshit to get to where they are and probably worked really, really hard to get there. God forbid they buy a BMW. Like, they're a doctor. They deserve to have their nice car. But I don't even see veterinarians driving around in BMWs anyway. They're driving Subarus and Toyotas because they know it'll last them 10 years. So,
But yeah, it's a huge kind of toxic society thing that veterinarians are almost seen like they should be charitable and
Yeah,
And we are, honestly. I'm not
we
gonna,
are.
like, we honestly are just purely out of because we're forced to almost.
Yeah,
We're forced to put up with low wages despite having a lot of debt, and we do it because we love it. And so we put up with that shit
yeah, I agree.
ultimately.
Yeah. I mean,
Period.
it's just a side effect of being in a like a corporate society. That's just how our society works, is how it runs. If you want them to keep the doors open and the lights on, like somebody's got to make money doing it. So just it's unfortunate. I get it. I've been in a position where I want to do stuff for my animal and I don't have the money to do it. I know how it feels. Been there many times. Grew up very poor, and we could not do fancy things for our animals when they got sick. And so I totally understand how it feels and I get it 1,000%. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to blame the veterinarian that saw my animal because we couldn't pay for it. It wasn't their fault that we couldn't pay for it. So
Period.
that's a tangent. I feel like we've talked about this many times, but it's a really big thing, I feel like, in veterinary medicine. It's the one thing that we get, I don't know, bullied for all the
Black for,
time.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
straight up bullied, if we're being honest.
That's real.
Online, in the clinic, by family members. Everybody wants free vet care. They just think it all comes for free.
Ultimately, it comes from a place of people who don't value animals as much as they like to think or say that they do.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, not even that really, because I mean, well, from the people who are bullying, yes. Um, but I don't know. I've known many people who are very low income who love their animals like family. My parents being one of those like groups of people. They would do whatever they physically could for their pet. But financially that's not a lot. Do I think they're a bad pet owner? No, I do not. They are a wonderful pet owner. They love their animals and they give them a good, safe home. And sometimes that's all you can ask for. So,
Yeah, but the difference is that those people who do truly care about their pets and would do what they could if they could afford it don't come at us like that.
no, my parents would never bully someone in the field because they couldn't afford the care.
So what I was getting at is like the people who do come at us and bully us for not taking care of their pets are usually people who don't necessarily value their pet's life the same way that like they act like they do or that they say they
Yeah.
do. Those are the
Yeah.
people who are like trying to take advantage of us and tell us that we're bad people and that we don't care about their animals.
Yeah. They're just trying to
And I
get free shit out of it. I mean, and the worst part too is, in my experience anyway, I can always tell when that type of person comes in. The way that they talk, the way that they act, they all do the same shit. It's the same thing. It's the same sob story. It's the same, my mom died recently, or this died recently, and my other pet was put down recently. Why can't you just help me out this time? And like, it's the same story with every one of them. And like, I have empathy for you going through a struggle. I have empathy for you losing a pet recently. I have empathy for all those things. And we can talk about it if you want to sit down and talk about it. But that doesn't change the fact that I'm not the owner of a company. I can't just give you a free CT because your dog needs it. Like, that's a lot of staff involved. That's a lot of medication involved. That's a lot of things that we can't just give away for free without it impacting the business. And if we did that for every pet, there would be no business.
and then no pet would get care ever.
I know. It's just so hard because I feel like this is like a topic that we just run over so many times on this podcast, in the field, with family. And it's like, I get frustrated sometimes because I feel like we cannot drill it into their heads far enough. You know what I mean? Like, I can't get it in.
Mm-hmm.
I can't make them understand. Even if I literally took a piece of paper and like broke it down, like the cost of everything and how much they make, and I'm talking like broke it down for them, I still do not think they would care. Like, and that's the thing. I think it's just people being mean to be mean. And that sucks because we go through enough. And that's also why I felt it was important to bring up this feminism issue, where people think that because more women work in a field, that everything that's wrong with that field can just be blamed on them, which is not true. First of all, Men still also work in the field. Men still also own some of these businesses. Like, it cannot all be blamed on women just because there are women in the field. That's
It
insane.
sometimes feels like in society, women are kind of our scapegoat.
Oh, every time. And I mean, especially recently, we see it in the media all the time. I mean, there are states that are quite literally trying to take away our right to vote. Yeah, it's tough. And that's also why I bring it up, because it's important. I am a woman who is trying to get a doctorate degree and survive. And I'm proud of myself for how far I've gotten and the work that I've put in and what I do. And I don't think I deserve to be told that it's my fault that X, Y, and Z is wrong with the field. It's not my fault, and it's not any woman's fault. It's a combination of factors like we talked about. And so, I don't know, with everything going on and all of the nonsense said about women in the news, just want to say that I do not agree with that.
Period. We're here for you,
So,
women.
yes.
We're girls over here.
Yeah. We're all about not being toxic, and we're all about not taking away women's right to vote.
Period.
That's a really big one. And if you are watching this podcast and you think women should not be allowed to vote, please get off this page. We don't want you. Do not subscribe. I do not care. We don't want you here. Period. We ain't about that.
Nope. We are all about equality here.
Yes. That being said, because there are fewer men in the field, I guess we should talk about, let's be equal here. Do you feel that negatively impacts your experience in any way? Do you think it could negatively impact other men's experience in the field?
Like the fact that there's more women. I actually love it. I I don't get along with men, honestly.
That's
Like,
fair.
I don't have man friends typically. I just like
Yeah.
I have more of a I guess I'm more feminine than most men, I would say.
Yeah.
You know? Being gay and all, and just like I just have always felt closer to women, and I feel like I make friends with women better. Um, I don't like toxic masculinity, I think, is what it boils
Yeah.
down to.
Yeah.
And so, no, I don't think it impacts anything. I think for me, particularly, it makes me feel more comfortable at work to have mostly females, to be quite honest with you.
That's good. I guess I would be
I
curious to hear from a straight man's point of view who does have like guy friends. Like, what is his experience in the field being female dominated? Does he feel like he's left out, or feel like he is like alone in his little bubble, or is it totally fine? Like, I don't know. I guess some men maybe feel uncomfortable being surrounded by women. But then again, if you got into the veterinary field as a straight man, you know it's all female. So if you're uncomfortable being in a room of all women, like, you picked the wrong field, I fear.
I feel like the straight men that I have worked with have not given off that vibe, though.
Same.
Like, they don't, to me, seem uncomfortable in any way.
No.
If
No.
anything, I think sometimes you females can feel more uncomfortable around them than the other way around, depending on how they act and how they are in the workplace.
I guess that's fair. Yeah.
What straight man wouldn't dream of working with a bunch of females, you know?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. 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 I mean, I
They're
just
more
am
likely to
curious, I
make you
guess, to know,
uncomfortable, I
like,
think.
if they have any like different thoughts on it.
It would be
But
an
I don't know
interesting.
any off the top of my head to ask. So
Well, I mean, we have one doctor that we want to have as a guest who is a straight male, so
that's
maybe
true.
if we
We
have
can get
him
him
as a
on.
guest one day, we can get him on and put him in the hot seat and
Yeah.
ask him this question.
True. Yeah. We need to come up with a list of questions that I think the other thing is we're best friends. And so we have very similar opinions on things, I think, in general. I think it's rare that we like truly disagree on something. So I think sometimes maybe having that third opinion or outsider opinion might be helpful, because, like, I don't know, we're looking through the same
The same lens.
yeah, same lens. I was like, what word am I looking for on a lot of these topics? So yeah. But I guess if you are a male veterinarian and you're listening to this or watching this, has your experience been changed at all by, I don't know, this field being female dominated? And if so, pros
Yeah,
and
I'd love to hear
cons?
from you.
Yeah. No hate, because everyone's experience is different. I mean, I think,
And everyone's experience is valid.
yeah, that too. That being said, I think we can start in on the like management portion of veterinary medicine. I think that is another thing that could potentially cause some issue, perhaps, when people look at veterinary medicine with a negative lens. And I think you kind of have more on that topic than I do, so I will let you get started.
So, for those of you who don't know, I am very passionate about management, especially in the veterinary field specifically. I have worked really hard to have that be a goal of mine, to eventually be a practice manager. That's like my ultimate goal, long term, as far as like my career path. I went as far as to get a bachelor's degree in healthcare administration. This degree was very geared towards human healthcare, but I do think that everything I've learned in that program is applicable to veterinary medicine in some way. Because as a business, we run the same. Like, ultimately, it comes down to being a business, and as a practice manager, that is mainly what your kind of scope of practice is, I guess, as you could say, is making sure that you are a successful business.
I guess on the topic of that, do you want to describe like the different like levels of management within a veterinary practice? Like maybe for those who don't know, like who does what within management, like in a typical practice, I guess.
Yeah. So typically, there's going to be a practice manager, and lateral to a practice manager, you typically will have a medical director. In a typical practice, your practice manager and your medical director work together, and they're pretty much on even playing fields. Your practice manager typically deals with your support staff and is over your support staff and deals with all of the business aspects of your practice. Your medical director is typically a veterinarian. It should be a veterinarian. If it's not, I don't know what you're doing. You need to change that. But your medical director is typically a veterinarian who not only is overseeing all of the doctors and deals with like doctor schedule, and is essentially their manager. They also are in charge of what is considered appropriate medicine within the facility. So typically they're going to be your go-to person. If you have any issues with the standard of care that a patient is receiving, that's going to be your go-to person is your medical director, who will then investigate, talk to the doctor who oversaw the case, and make sure that they're making the right medical decisions for the pets. Underneath them, depending on the size of the practice, under your practice manager would be like maybe a nurse manager, or maybe it would just, like in a smaller practice setting, like a small GP, it would probably just be practice manager and medical director and then a bunch of like shift supervisors. But in like a large specialty ER facility, it's going to typically be like a nurse manager who would then have shift leads underneath of them. And then like your practice manager is a whole nother entity above your nurse manager, basically. So that's kind of like how it's all distributed and the like umbrella, essentially. If it's also a big enough practice, sometimes you have like lead doctors underneath your medical director, even if it's a big enough place. But yeah, that's kind of the, I guess, delegation of management within a general facility. But
Yeah.
I think what I kind of wanted to emphasize is some of the issues that I feel like surround veterinary management is the lack of management training or management experience or whatever you may call it. In traditional veterinary medicine, typically your nurse manager or your veterinary practice manager is just a technician who's worked in the field for a really long time and has worked their way up and like deserve to be in that role based on what people think, I guess. Which I think is great. It's great that you can move up and do those things as a technician, but
Yeah.
I just think that the lack of managerial training is something that causes a lot of issues
I
for
agree.
technicians. It doesn't allow for fair practice management, I think, and like for fair people management.
Yeah. I think
Because
the
they just
fair
don't
people
have,
management is a big one.
yes, it's a huge thing. There's a lot of reasons why veterinary workforce is so toxic, and I think it usually boils down to the lack of managerial training within the veterinary field.
Yeah, for sure. I think practices or even corporate companies that really prioritize leadership training and making sure that they're really pushing their leaders or the people who they have promoted into those positions to be fair and to follow strict guidelines and to make sure that they are doing what is appropriate is super important. And I think those practices work way better than practices that don't have that. Like I've seen that firsthand. Like with the practice that we worked at, it was very much you've been here for 15 years, you get the position. There's no additional training. I don't even think people would show them how to properly do the job. They just had to kind of figure it out. And that resulted in a lot of toxicity. It resulted in favoritism. It resulted in cliques forming within the workplace, people who could get away with things that other people couldn't. It just overall, created this atmosphere. And I think going to a practice that then really prioritized leadership training to the point where we had to do like separate courses. And I mean, for upper management, they would go to conferences and all sorts of things where they had to do actual like business and leadership training. And I think that made such a huge difference in the way that we were treated and even just the rules that we had to follow.
Yeah,
Very, very different.
it makes for a much fairer workforce, and it also just leads to having happier staff. Because ultimately, like, workplace culture is what is going to make you the happiest in your workplace. And that's been like proven on so many different ways. There's studies about it everywhere. You can just like look up studies about how that like positively impacts your day-to-day work compared to
Yeah.
like your wage.
Yeah.
And people are just happier when there's a positive culture. So I do think that we are making strides as a veterinary workforce to have actual leadership training be a bigger aspect of being in management. But I did kind of want to talk about a kind of like a program I think that's kind of come out. It's been released by Penn Foster, which, if you don't know who that is, Penn Foster is an online degree program or school, I guess, that you can become a certified veterinary technician through. Um, and they have also come out with it's called like a CVPM, and it stands for Certified Veterinary Practice Management. And they do
Okay.
have a program for people that you can take that on a fast track takes 12 months. Average time is about a 14-month program,
That's not bad.
which includes 19 credits of 7 courses. It's actually not that expensive either. Like, ultimately, like, obviously it's expensive, but
So if you have a
compared to,
really good business that you're working for, maybe they'll help you pay for it.
yep. And I started to see it because, as you know, I am looking for that kind of role and that kind of job.
Yeah.
So I have started to see this pop up on like job listings as like preferred hiring somebody that has their CVPM from Penn Foster. Like, people are starting to look for that for their practice management. So I
I was
think we're
going to
headed in the
ask
right
you.
direction.
Yeah, I love to see that for sure. I was going to ask you, in your experience, because you do have a degree that leans toward business management specifically, I know you've been trying to get into that role. Do you want to talk a little bit about what your experience has been like for those who are interested in this program, because it is so new still to veterinary medicine that it's great to see that some places are looking for that. But in your experience, do you feel like it's helped you having that degree?
To be quite honest with you, no, I don't think it has. I think that there's still like a huge issue in veterinary medicine that like people don't recognize the time and effort I put into this program that would
Yeah.
positively impact my ability to manage a practice. People don't take it seriously. It doesn't feel like.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
I'm
think that is a big thing to talk about because, like, obviously you are a person who's been in the field for many years. So you not only have the experience, but you went the extra mile to get this extra degree, which would make you a better manager. It's not, we all know it's not necessarily going to get you more money. It's not necessarily going to, in your experience at least, make sure that you are a competitive candidate. And I think it's just a really overlooked thing. Like you said, you went through all of these extra steps to make sure you could be the best you could be, and it's still getting overlooked for people who have just simply been a tech for 10 years. And those people are not putting in the effort, and they're not looking into what could better the business, and they're not looking into taking away that toxicity, and they're just looking to get off the floor because they're getting older now. And that's not the case for everybody, and I don't want to generalize, but it does happen a lot, right? And I've seen it, you've seen it. And so I think if this is something that we are moving towards, and the fact that there's an actual degree specifically for veterinary professionals is very cool, I think. And so I think that's a
well, it's not
wonderful
a degree, it's a
step.
certification, just to
Well,
clarify. It is just a certification.
Certification, nonetheless, it is something, right, that's geared towards veterinary professionals, that didn't exist prior to this. So that means that potentially people are noticing that this is a problem, and are making moves to try to fix it, which is great. I am sad that in your experience, you've done all these extra things and still have not, like, I don't know.
Felt recognized for it.
Yeah, been recognized for it, for sure.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is maybe people don't understand what my degree means, because ultimately, like, my degree is called a bachelor's degree in healthcare administration.
Yeah, but I think that for me anyway, that pretty much sums it up.
But is that like because I've told you about it, or because
No,
that make okay?
healthcare administration. What else do you need from that,
You're right.
in my opinion?
Period. Period.
If you are someone who's looking at a resume and you see a degree for healthcare admin and you don't know what that means, like, that's an even bigger issue.
Fair, and that's what Google's for.
Yeah, true. Look it up and see what it is so that you know how much it means. And I guess this is like a whole other issue. I'm not going to touch on it, but very briefly. I do think a lot of people are trying to devalue education, in today's world, making it so that, it's not something that should be required, or seeing a degree and just not caring about that. There is a lot of work, there's a lot of studying, there's a lot of research, big projects that go into getting some of these degrees that really require critical thinking, and you really have to, like, look at things from every angle when you're getting some of these degrees. And I just think that people are just, it goes right over their head. They don't see it, they don't understand it, or they don't have a degree themselves, and so they don't know what that encompasses. But it's a lot. It's not just, you know, I remembered this information, took my exam, and passed. That's not all that college is. And I wish that this weird
Especially
stigma would go away.
my program. My program was very non-traditional, I guess. It was an online degree program, but I don't want people to like devalue that, because
Yeah.
if anything, it was more work for myself to do that. It was
Yeah.
I didn't go to lectures. I was self-taught. I had to learn everything. I had a lot of really big projects that I had to do. Like, some of my final projects, I had to make a business plan for a business, and I had to make like a legit business plan that I would feel comfortable presenting to a financial institution to get funding for a business. Like, it was very in depth.
Yeah.
I had to do a lot of like emotional intelligence type of things, things that would be very helpful in a situation where I had to talk to an individual about an issue that they've been having at work or that other people have been noticing, and being able to see kind of both sides of that situation and be able to level myself with this individual and like tell them how what they did was wrong and how to improve. Like, these are not just I studied this math equation 5 times and now I know how to do it. Like, I was taught a lot of emotional intelligence, and I was taught how to write and read a P&L statement, which if you don't know what that is, look it up. Like, it was a worthwhile education that I just feel like is not valued during an interview process. And it's quite unfortunate.
Yeah. And it's hard to, especially in an interview, make that clear without just going off on a tangent about your education in front of them.
Yep. And then I look like a smart
Yeah.
ass.
Yeah,
But you know what
exactly.
they
Like,
asked
how are
me?
people going to take that? Yeah.
Do you know what they
Yeah,
asked me
it's
that
really
they care about
frustrating
more?
because, I
Have
have
you ever made a
truly
schedule
seen.
before? And I say, no, I've never made a schedule before. Okay, well, we're not going to hire you.
Yeah.
That's all you
You
care
need to
about is
respond
whether
to
or not
that.
I
You
know
need
how
to
to make a
respond to that
schedule?
differently. You should say that you've made mock schedules in school. In an education setting, you've made mock schedules and feel confident that you could figure it out, even though you haven't done it before.
You know, that's so fair.
That's how you got to answer that question.
I do have confidence issues when it comes to interviews, and I do think that is something that I need to work on. But sometimes it just feels like whether or not somebody's willing to take a chance on me is like how my interview processes feel.
And that's the thing about it, is that because you have this experience and you do have this education, they are not taking a chance on you. They would be hiring a well-qualified individual if they decided to hire you. That wouldn't be taking a chance, in my opinion. If you are qualified for the position, you have every attribute that is required for the position, whether or not you've made an actual schedule for employees before, you are qualified. They're not taking any sort of risk by hiring you for that position. Does it require that perhaps they show you how to make the schedule or how they've been doing it? Yes, but that is not an overly time-consuming task. So, yeah.
Period.
Yeah. I don't know. That's where I'm at with that. But yeah, I think, do you have anything else that you want to add to this conversation, or should we move into our chaos corner?
I think that's all I really had, except for just urging veterinary professionals to be more, I don't know, open to management skills. And if you have a practice manager who is looking to better themselves, maybe refer them for the Penn Foster program. If you own a veterinary practice, you should pay for your veterinary practice manager to take this program.
Yeah.
Or you
I think
should
it
hire
benefits
me.
everyone. Yes, or hire him.
Sort of.
But are we?
But are we?
I don't know. Yeah, so my chaos corner is not really a chaos corner, but I am currently, we are starting dermatology at school. So we're talking about all the fun derm cases. And so my chaos corner is simply this. I don't like dermatology. It's gross. If I have to look at another picture of screw worms burrowing into something's skin, I don't know if I'm going to make it. Also, why are skin conditions in cows like 10 times more disgusting than any other species? I'm sorry. Anyone listening, please, I beg you, look up ringworm in cows. I had to look at pictures of ringworm on cows all morning as I was studying. That is the worst thing I've ever seen. It is disgusting. I have trypophobia as well, which is, if you didn't know, the fear of clusters of small holes or circles or just things that look like bugs or like honeycomb, anything like that. It literally makes me want to vomit when I see it. Look up ringworm in cows. That's it.
That's all I have to say.
Story.
My chaos corner is treating lice. Because I hate bugs on animals. They make me want to vomit. I feel itchy. The rest of the day, I feel like I have bugs in my hair, and I'm like, I feel like I need to shower and bleach, and it's just like not for me. Which I feel like this kind of goes hand in hand with your dermatology situation.
Yeah, it does. It's like perfect. We're learning about Demodex and all the fun creepy crawlies. That being
Awful.
said, aren't lice like host specific? Like there's different types of lice.
Yeah, so like
I don't think they're going
canine
to
lice is
to
not.
grow a colony on your head.
No. I cannot contract canine lice. Like it can live on me for a small period of time, but it will die and like cannot feed off of me. But I have
Yeah.
a really nasty video that I showed you of us looking at, and we found it was sucking
Yeah.
lice specifically.
You know what?
Um,
If I can figure out how to edit it, I will put that video up here for you guys so you can see it too.
yeah, so you can see
Because it's
this
actually
video of
really
the
interesting to
sucking
see.
lice. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
You can
The
like
worst
see the
part too is that there's
peristalsis of the GI tract with the dog's blood in it. You can like see the peristalsis and the blood moving around in his intestine and his
I'm
GI
just
tract.
dying at the way you pronounce it.
What? The peristalsis? Why is that funny?
Yeah. I just
How do
feel
you
like you're
say it?
adding an I in there that doesn't exist. Peristalsis.
Peristalsis.
Wait, I'm gonna look up how it's spelled because I'm dying.
Isn't it like Parastollysis or something?
Peristalsis. Peristalsis. There's no I in there.
Peristalsis. Did I
You're
still
adding
say
an
it
I.
wrong?
Peristalsis. Peristalsis.
Bitch. Tomato, tomato.
Fair. Fair. I just like giving you shit.
Variant.
It's what we do.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, well, I
everybody.
think this was a very interesting and diverse episode
Yeah,
of the topics
it
we
was.
talked about.
It was an interesting episode. About a lot of heavy things again, as usual. That's kind of the theme of our
As
episode, I think.
always. As
But
always.
it's hard
That's what
not
we
to,
do.
you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think the topics that are really worth discussing in veterinary medicine are heavy topics. So, yeah.
Heard that.
Yeah. So to end the episode, I will say wear your gloves so you don't get ringworm from your patients because that's
Because you
nasty.
can get that one.
You can get that one.
That one is zoonotic.
And don't forget to what?
That one is zoonotic.
Yes. But yeah, don't forget to take care of yourself like you take care of your patients. We
We'll
love
see you
you.
next time.
Have a good week.